Welcome to the self-learning platform by Dr. Sushma Singh. Today we start Unit 14, George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, and we start topic idealism. In the history of political ideas, there are two major schools of thought about the nature of reality, idealism and naturally rationalism and empiricism. The question about that nature of reality is ontological, while the question about knowing it is epistemological, according to the idealist school of which Hegel is a major proponent, the other one being Plato, true knowledge of everything in the world, material and non-material, is deducted from idea of the thing. In other words, the idea of the thing is more important than the thing itself. Therefore, what is real and permanent is the idea of a thing, not a thing as much. This is so because the physical world is constantly in a state of flux and change, but the idea is permanent. The physical world is only a manifestation of the idea. For example, the true knowledge of table or chair lies in comprehending the idea of table and chair. An actually existing table is a table in so far as it has characteristics of tablehood. A carpenter is able to make a table because he has the idea of table in his mind, and the table that he makes is only a manifestation or approximation of that idea. The terms hot and cold are understood as idea. The knowledge of the actual existing things is relative and hence imperfect. When you say that water in this glass is hot, it is only a relative truth, because as compared to boiler water it is cold, but as compared to water in the refrigerator it is hot. So the real knowledge is to comprehend the idea of hot and cold. Hegelian idealism is often referred to the absolute idealism because it provides us with a set of categories, hot and cold, pleasure and pain, in terms of what all human experiences of the past and the present can be understood. There is another dimension of Hegelian idealism. This may be called idealist interpretation of history. According to this theory, it is the ideas that constitute the true motor of history, which gives momentum to history is the development of the ideas. All changes in society, economy, polity, and culture take place because of development of ideas. Hegel's idealism, which is often called absolute idealism, sees a certain relationship between the subject and the object. It is a relationship between the subject and the object. It is a relationship between a knowing subject and the objective world, which is known, that is relationship between the mind and the world. Now the next is dialectical method. Hegel political philosophies rest mainly on his dialectical method. As already pointed out, Hegel borrowed his method from Socrates, who is the first exponent of this method. Hegel was himself expressed his doubt to Socrates for this method. the dialectic method to discuss. Socrates believed that one can arrive at the truth only by constant questioning. It was the process of exposing contradictions through the method of discussion. Having taken a clue from Socrates, Hegel argued that absolute idea or the spirit in search of self-realization moves from being to non-being to becoming. To put it in simple words, an idea moves from a thesis to antithesis until a synthesis of the two is found. Synthesis has in its element of thesis as well antithesis. In due course, the synthesis itself acquires the status of the thesis and gives rise to its own antithesis. This process goes on. In practice, Hegel applied his dialectical method to the domain of ideas. Therefore, his methods may be described as dialectical idealism. It means that every idea or thesis gives rise to a counter idea antithesis, and the original idea and counter idea merge to give rise to a new idea synthesis. This new idea in due course itself becomes a thesis and gives rise to its antithesis, and the process goes on. Hegel argued that through the use of his dialectical method, he has discovered the greatest formula in the history of philosophy. He maintained that the march of reason in history was a complex dialectical process. It is a mechanism by which thought propels itself. Dialectical idealism was a logical apparatus for interpreting the history in its true perspective. Next point is use of dialectical method. Having stated his dialectical method, Hegel argued that a phenomena can be best understood according to the law of dialectics, that is, when contrasted with its opposite. Pleasure is best understood in opposition to pain, heat in opposition to cold, goodness in opposition to badness, justice in opposition to injustice, and so on. Hegel has given several instances of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. The following instances given by him are noteworthy, and you should remember them. First is family is the thesis, civil society is its antithesis, and state is the synthesis. Second, similarly, despotism is thesis, democracy is its antithesis, and constitutional monarchy is the synthesis. Third, inorganic world is the thesis, organic world is its antithesis, and human beings are the synthesis. Hegel believed that the true nature of thing can be known only if its contradictions are also known. In this sense, his theory of dialectics is rooted in contradiction or negation. He considered contradictions as the driving force of the whole process of evolution. This is the fundamental law of cosmos as also of thought. Here we want to wind up this lecture. Thank you so much for your attention.